Why people sometimes find some challenges? Because ethics is contextual. It depends on the situation and the need of the hour, the context. And that is why sometimes people are not very clear about it. Basically, the civil servants use application of those values in human conduct when he or she is going to actual work for the government as civil servant. That is what is in the paper of ethics. So sometimes people get confused that what first of all they have to suggest different options. What are the different options? And then they have to suggest that option which they find to be most ethical and also practical. So there they get confused. And the answer to that is practice, practice and practice. The weakest ink is still more powerful than the strongest of memories. So if you write it down, you will be able to remember it. Whereas just mugging it up, you will not remember it. So write it down. Have a patience, and there will be a lot of stress. There will be a lot of issues connected with time management, but keep that stress low and try to improve your knowledge, skills and attitude. If you do that, your ability will increase and you will definitely crack the examination.
Hello dear aspirants, I am Vishal Salsekar and I welcome you all to this special conversational series on mastering ethics preparation. Today I am joined by Shri Krishna Mohan Sir, who is the retired IAS officer from the Haryana cadre and who has trained a lot of public servants and other public officials specifically in the ethics related aspects. Welcome sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you, Vishal.
And good afternoon, sir. So, sir, as far as this means examination is concerned, the ethics becomes a very unique paper because specifically it is being asked in the means examination. So, why ethics is so much unique?
Vishal, we live in a country which is primarily citizen-centric governance.
Right, sir.
It's in stark contrast to what it was before 1947, when we had a colonial system of governance, but now everything is centered around the citizen of this country. And this citizen-centric administration is basically governed by the civil servants. And civil servants, while carrying out their duties for public service delivery, must remain ethical. Only then they will be able to deliver the fruits of good governance to the people. And therefore, the government thought it was necessary to inculcate ethics right from the beginning itself. And that makes the paper very unique, because before 2013, there was no such paper like GS4 with deals with ethics. But after that, it was felt that there is a need to bring ethics to the forefront, because a large number of scams were taking place, unethical activities were taking place at various levels. So therefore, it was desired that 3 steps may be taken. The 3 steps that were taken by the government, one was to set up the Second Administrative Reforms Commission, which has delivered 15 reports. One of the reports, which is one of the most important reports, is on ethics. And the second one was to introduce the element of ethics in the training policy, so that at the induction level and at mid-service level, the civil servants are trained on ethics. And third, the most important one was introduction of the GS4 paper as a part of the civil service examination. So that makes it unique. Ethics paper is one paper which not only concentrates on knowledge, but also concentrates on attitudes.
Exactly.
Because the ability of a person, a candidate, is judged by 3 things. One, the knowledge it possesses, the skills he possesses, and the attitude. So the ethics paper concentrates on both knowledge and also attitudes and definitely skills. Whereas other papers of CSE, they mostly concentrate on knowledge. And ethics paper is situational paper, where a number of case studies are there which are situational in nature. So the ethics paper tries to understand how the candidate is going to figure out how he will face a certain situation and wriggle out of it by taking adequate steps for the public service delivery. So it is basically a situational kind of a questions which appear in this, which sometimes lead to ethical dilemmas. So the ethics paper not only deals about the principles of ethics, that is the concepts of ethics, but also the case studies relating to that, which is the practical application of ethics in day-to-day life.
Okay, so sir, as per you, like from not only from the examination perspective, even from a career of a civil servant perspective, ethics is a very crucial aspect. And during the tenure as well as during the time he or she is serving in the administration, ethics is the core aspect that makes it unique at the very beginning of the examination.
Absolutely right, Vishnu.
Okay. So, sir, now coming to the approach of this particular paper, what exactly are the component in general in the ethics paper? So, can you just summarize briefly regarding like what all the parts are there in the ethics paper?
Sure. So, Vishal, there are essentially two parts to the ethics paper, and both parts carry equal number of marks. One relates to the theory, which is concept oriented, and the other is the case studies. And both are important. The candidate should devote equal amount of time to part A and part B. And the part A basically relates to what are the different values which are required to be practiced and the examples thereof. Basically, ethic paper deal with key words and examples. So, the more keywords you understand, for example, what is accountability, what is integrity, what is transparency, what is empathy. So, these are some of the important values. So, the candidate must understand what exactly they mean. Besides, he must understand what is the significance of that value, what is the practical application of its value, why it is required in civil services, what will happen in its absence, what is value mapping, that is, who are the people who have lived their life with those values, and finally, the examples relating to that particular value. So, this is how the part A is to be answered. So, part A is, as I said, is concept oriented. So, there is a glossary of terms which the candidate must go through, and also he must bring out many examples in relating to that. Not only that, he should try to introduce quotations from the various people, great people who have actually practiced ethics. So, it can be APJ Abdul Kalam, it can be Mahatma Gandhi, it can be Nelson Mandela, and so on. And the second part relates to the practical applicability of those values which we discuss in part A. So, the use of integrity, use of accountability, transparency, loyalty, empathy in various situations which are going to be faced in real life by the civil servant. So, basically the civil servants use application of those values in human conduct when he or she is going to actual work for the government as civil servant. That is what is in the paper of ethics.
Thank you, sir. That was very well summarized regarding what are the different components in the ethics. So, sir, now coming to this particular paper, as we have seen from the past year's trends, that the toppers or in general those who have cleared this examination got a very good marks also in this particular paper, and this can be a kind of defining paper which can like bring your rank to the very good ranks. So, sir, still a lot of students are getting confused in this particular paper. So, what do you think, like what are the challenges that in general aspirant faces regarding ethics papers?
So, Vishal, the ethics paper, why people sometimes find some challenges? Because ethics is contextual. It depends on the situation and the need of the hour, the context. And that is why sometimes people are not very clear about it. So, ethical situation pose ethical dilemmas, and in what happens is that ethical dilemmas bring out many options, and which option to follow, that sometimes becomes confusing. So, basically in the part B of the ethics paper dealing with case studies, there are generally 4 types of situations which come in the paper. Number 1, where a public official is facing an ethical dilemma because of pressure from someone, be it political or a senior person, to do something or not to do something. So, commission or omission, so he is under pressure. That is one situation. For example, supposing there is a flyover and the minister says that the flyover should be opened up quickly, It should be inaugurated by the Chief Minister by next month, and the flyover is still not ready. And you as a municipal commissioner feel that public safety is at stake if you start opening that flyover quickly. So now you are in a dilemma. On one hand, you are under pressure from the minister to open up because he has got some political considerations for it. On the other hand, you have a duty towards the public, their safety. So this kind of a situation is faced. That is one. Second situation can be in respect of a executive belonging to a company, where he is passing through a bad patch. The company is also passing through a bad patch, and the company officers tell him that you have not procured any contract for the last so much of time, and therefore we may even have to wind up your department. So better procure a contract. Now when he tries to find out that there is a good contract, he comes to this finding that he may have to bribe the government officer. Now he is a very straightforward ethical person. So therefore there is a conflict between his personal ethics and the company's interests. He has to survive. He has a mother who is probably suffering from cancer. He has 2 kids to go and to the school. So therefore this dilemma comes before him, that whether to compromise the ethics and pay a bribe and get the contract, in which case he will be able to retain his job. So this is the second kind of ethical dilemma. The third kind of ethical dilemma can be where the examiner wants to know how you will be dealing with a particular situation. For example, there can be cyclone, there can be floods, there can be droughts, there can be malaria, there can be a situation where you want women empowerment. So how do you deal? Step by step you have to spell out what exactly steps you will take. For example, women empowerment. So you will say that I will call a meeting of the NGOs, I will call a meeting of my officers, find out which are the areas where women they are not getting the complete good deal in terms of wages, in terms of leave and so on. And then I will pinpoint those issues and try to see what can be done about it. And I will involve many people, and I will go to the villages, I will hold meetings of the Gram Panchayats and so on. So this is how they want to know what is the ingenuity in your answers. How much amount of brainstorming can you do in achieving that result? Take example of floods. What steps you will take to ensure that the people who are suffering from floods, their position is improved and their pains are mitigated. So you will have to evacuate them, take the help of army and air force authorities. You have to provide boats to shift them, and then you have to put them in a school, you have to provide food. So this is how the different steps they would like to go. So that is the third type of ethical the case studies. And fourth is where an ordinary citizen faces some kind of an ethical dilemma dealing with a government servant or otherwise. So a normal person, he wants a ration card or he wants a particular facility, a registration certificate, and he faces the dilemma, he has to pay money. So what is that he is going to do in that situation? So this is the kind of 4 types of case studies which normally come in the ethics paper.
Right, and I think most of the aspirants are getting confused in understanding like what kind of role they have to perform in these particular kind of case studies, considering that there are certain kind of constraints from the side of administration, like they might not be able to perform, and an issue in understanding that might be a major challenge for the aspirants.
Yes, absolutely. So since it is contextual, so sometimes people get confused that first of all they have to suggest different options. What are the different options? And then they have to suggest that option which they find to be most ethical and also practical. Exactly. So there they get confused. And the answer to that is practice, practice and practice. The more practice you do, the more number of case studies you solve, step by step, you will be able to have an understanding as to how to present your answer. So that, and as you very rightly said, Vishal, that ethics paper is a very scoring paper. It is actually a matter of common sense. The important thing one the candidate has to understand is to put himself or herself in the position of the protagonist who is to carry out or not to carry out certain orders. Yes. One should try to put oneself in that position, and then you will be able to come out with the answer. Okay, if I was in this situation, how will I have tackled the situation? So if you do that, putting yourself in the shoes of another and doing practice, understanding and solving the case study step by step and systematically. I always say that there are a number of S's, they make up a phrase: sincere, systematic study secures sure success. You have to be sincere, you have to be systematic. So, step by step, case studies have to be solved step by step.
Okay, sir. So I think that was very comprehensive answer for the aspirants, that they will be able to now approach case studies in a much simpler manner as compared to the previously. So now, sir, just out of curiosity, there is a question that generally when we are solving case studies, we are trying to think that there might be certain kind of idealistic solutions, and on the other hand, there are certain kind of realistic solutions which might be including certain kind of constraints also. So what do you think, sir, because you have practical experience of administration also. So do you think, sir, writing certain kind of idealistic solutions might be helping in fetching better marks, or sticking to the practical aspects is going to help further better with the UPSC examination?
So, that again is a very interesting question. So, let me dwell on first of all the steps that are required in solving a case study. So, there are major 6-7 steps. If one proceeds like that, one will be able to present a very good argument and secure good marks. The first step is, after you have read through the case study, write a short summary and a good introduction. Short summary will ensure that the examiner understands that you have actually read it well. So, a short summary essentially is précis writing. Précis writing means reduction it to almost 1/3. So, write an introduction, a short summary of the case. And then the second step is one of the very important steps: find out who are the stakeholders. So, who are the people who are going to be affected by your decision? Some will be affected favorably and some will be affected adversely. For example, in the case of that flyover, if you do not listen to the minister is going to be adversely affected. So, he is one stakeholder. Now, who is going to be favorably affected? It is the public, because you are not opening it in terms of public safety. So, some stakeholders will be positively affected, some negatively. You have to list out the stakeholders. The third step is the ethical issues involved in that. The issues may be concerning accountability, loyalty, public safety. It can be relating to transparency, it can be regarding secrecy. So, there are a number of issues which are ethical. Then relating to that is ethical dilemma. What are the ethical dilemma he is facing? On one account, it is direction from the senior, on the other account, it is the public safety. So, he is in a dilemma, where to go? And that is why, because of this dilemma, sometimes they find it difficult to take a decision. And the next step is then the most important step, the options. So, which are the options which are available before that protagonist who has to take action? So, the options he would have to list out which are the options, what are the merits and demerits of each option, and list them out in a tabular form or in a paragraph form: option 1, option 2, option 3, each one of them the merit, the demerit. And then he must understand that the first option would be one which is least feasible. The last option should be one which he is going to recommend. So, that is the options, and sometime more than one option can also be recommended. So, the last two options can be recommended. Sometime it is also like this, that he will recommend that first of all I will recommend option 3. If 3 fails, then 4, and if 4 fails, then 5. So, that brings us to the next step, that the option which you will recommend and why. So, you will have to write down which option do you recommend and why. And then the last step is actually in closing a closure, or you can say the final words, way forward, recommendation. So, that is the kind of thing which he will like. If he can use quotes or taglines in this. For example, environment, if there is an issue regarding environment versus development. So, you can write a tagline of Wangari Maathai saying that the development must be done, but not at the cost of environment. Or if there is a issue regarding case study regarding emotional intelligence. So, you write that 20% of the success depends on the academic intelligence and 80% of the success is attributable to the emotional intelligence. So, this is how step by step systematically you will proceed with the case study.
I think, sir, that approach to the case study was quite holistic, and I think now the students might have or might be able to clearly delineate like what are the important components to solve any specific case study. Now sir, coming to the practical aspects that I was like asking you in the last question also, so there are certain kind of example generally the students might be collecting, and from the even toppers we have heard that they were like preparing a lot of examples along with the virtues and values, along with certain kind of dilemmas that you have already pointed out. So the pre-prepared examples are already there with them. So is it recommendable that real life examples should be quoted more, or certain kind of like philosophical, or from those events which are like already happened like previously, which are not currently serving in the administration? So what kind of examples generally students are recommended to use in the case studies?
So I will talk about two things first. First thing is that what kind of examples he should give. Now the examples can be from the lives of great people. Great people include reformers, they may include politicians, they can include civil servants. For example, you can include the quotes given by Mahatma Gandhi or Rabindranath Tagore or Nelson Mandela or Martin Luther King, so many. So you can use the quotes, or some environmentalists, Kailash Satyarthi, the Bachpan Bachao or Wangari Maathai. So one category of the quotes examples can be from those lives of those people, those examples. So for example, just to give an example, J.R.D. Tata, when you want to talk about integrity. So J.R.D. Tata in his office had a table and there were two drawers. Both the drawers contained stationery items, but there was a difference. The left drawer contained stationery items like A4 sheets, pen, pencil, rubber, which he had purchased from his own savings bank account, and the right drawer contained stationery items which he had purchased from the company's account. Never did he mix the two. If it was a company's work, he would use the stationery from the right drawer, and if it was personal work, he would use the left drawer. So this is an example of integrity, honesty. So you can use this kind of example from the lives of the great people. You can also quote examples from some of the great epics, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Puran, or from any other religious books also. You can also mention anything which has happened to you in your childhood days. You were traveling by a bus and you found that there was a bag which was left by a passenger and it contained 1 lakh of rupee. Now there was an address and mobile number given there. So you took that bag and delivered to that particular person. He wanted to award you also 5,000 rupees, which you politely declined. That is an example of honesty and integrity. You can also give examples from different newspaper cuttings, some common people. Like for example, when we talk about the status of women empowerment, then there was a cutting news item which said that a sarpanch, he had a selfie, he took a selfie with his daughter and he posted it on the social media, selfie with her daughter. That shows that I feel so strongly about a daughter. So this is how you can quote example from anywhere. You can even use Panchatantra or Hitopadesh. They are all examples. So it can be from anywhere, all that it should be relevant to that particular value which you are trying to project. So that is one. The second is, the question was whether it should, the kind of option we should recommend should be an idealistic option or it should be a practical one. Now let me give an example, because examples actually prove the point. So supposing you are in charge of medical education and you get a complaint that a particular medical college is running without proper infrastructure and facilities. It doesn't have the faculty, no infrastructure. So the students, they are not getting the kind of education one would have liked it to be. So you go and carry out an inquiry and you find that it is actually true. Now the question is, what are the options open before you? The first option is that you order the closure of that. So de-recognize that. So now the owner comes to you and he offers you 2 crore rupees as bribe. Now you are in a dilemma, what to do. So first option is, which he will give, which is the most impractical option, that you accept the bribe. But you have to include that as one of the options.
Right.
So first option is you accept the bribe. The second option is that you allow closure, you de-recognize it. So the lives of the student will be at stake, because everyone will come to know who will come for placement issues. So there the lives will be at stake. May not be a very, very desirable option, but there is another option. The option can be this, that You allow the institution to run as far as these students are concerned, but you totally de-recognize it from future. So, no future student will be enrolled till you complete the complete formalities. So, that is a more practical solution. The lives of the student will not be lost, and you give time to the institution that within such and such time you ensure that the infrastructure is there, so that a practical view is taken. So, this is how a practical recommendation would always earn the examiners praise for that particular candidate.
And so for that, I think the student should be having certain kind of examples vis-a-vis topics ready with themselves, because in the examination hall they can't be able to prepare these kind of scenarios that you are like providing us, because a lot of brainstorming is needed to provide these kind of examples. So I think there should be a kind of like recommendation to the students from your side, or a kind of like suggestion from the to the students that they should be having certain kind of pre-prepared examples with them before the examination.
Absolutely correct, Vishal. You have absolutely hit the point, because examination, you do not have time to think there. Your pen has to start running continuously, and you have to pick up a good speed. So, you have to prepare background material much in advance. So, that can only be done by doing cherry picking from different authentic sources. Some sources are newspapers, some are some important websites or Google, or from books, or from the lives of some other people. Try to draw as many examples as possible, also include quotes also from the lives of these people, and prepare subject wise files which include such kind of examples and quotes, so that, and keep on writing them again and again, because writing actually brings out the practice. It is beautifully said that the weakest ink is still more powerful than the strongest of memories. So, if you write it down, you will be able to remember it, whereas just mugging it up, you will not remember it. So, write it down, and as you very rightly said, make a good collection, a bank of quotes, a bank of examples.
And I think practice will further include a lot of other examples, like attempting certain kind of previous year's case studies, or certain kind of like test series will going to help your students, right sir?
Yes, absolutely. So, Vishal, mock tests and test series, they help you improve your ability, because then you are aware about your shortcomings, where you need to improve. So, one should in fact carry out revision of all the subjects every 10 days or 20 days, try to appear at mock tests, make improvement in those mock tests, test series, and gather as much material as possible, so that every topic, and one should try to take up every topic simultaneously. It is not that you take up one subject, do it for 2 months, because it will make you monotonous. You have to approach all the papers together, but ethics is a paper of keywords and examples. So, it is more required in this particular paper.
Another question based upon again curiosity only, that in general studies generally we are recommending students to bring out a lot of dimensions, like something from political, social, economic, or something from the side of like stakeholders, like the individual, then the family, then society, then the country or the nation. So generally, is it recommended in the case studies also that the student can attempt question holistically, including these kind of approaches, or like there is only like a single kind of approach across all the case studies the student should be adopting?
Okay, Vishal. So, the case studies will be, as I said, broadly in 4 categories, and they will definitely be touching upon the emotional aspect also. So, let me give an example, since you have raised this issue. It is a very important issue that all the dimensions need to be definitely looked into. To give an example which came in one of the papers, supposing you are in charge of a department, the department is actually distributing old age pension to the senior citizens. Now, you are in charge and you go to the village and you find that there is a lady who is 80 years of age approximately from her appearance, but she comes forward and she says, I do not have the necessary documents. And the two documents which are required, one is the Aadhaar card and the other is the date of birth certificate. And she says, I do not have them. But from her appearance, you can understand that she must be more than 80 years of age. Now, depriving her of that particular pension is not the correct thing. So, you have to think about the other dimension, compassion, empathy, sympathy. That is a thing which you keep in mind. That is why the Prime Minister says that we should move away from rule based to role based. So, there what will you do? One option is that you reject the application because she does not possess those documents, which is also a right approach. There is nothing wrong with that. But there is another right way. So, you depute the Tehsildar to carry out a fact finding inquiry to find out whether the lady is residing in there for the last 30-40 years, and he will take statements of the people and he will submit a report. Yes, she has been residing. So, that point regarding the residence part is taken care of. Now, about the age. So, you depute the doctor and you say that give an approximate age of this, and he will be in a position to say, all right, she is 75 plus minus 5 years, which proves the point that she is more than 60 years of age. So, you are in a position to deliver that justice to that particular lady. So, many times what will happen in case studies, there are right versus wrong issues, there are right versus right. So, right versus wrong is not difficult, because whatever is ethical, that is right, whatever is unethical is wrong. It is not very difficult to solve such case study, but where it is right versus right, you have to actually pay some more attention. Many times situation will come where issue may be related to national security. For example, the aircraft, an aircraft has been purchased from another country. Now, people have a right to know, so that is transparency. But at the same time, national security is involved, so secrecy is involved. So, there will be issues concerning national safety, political issues, the treaties between two countries, you cannot divulge their content. So, invariably in the case studies, different aspects will come into fore. So, political, social, cultural, emotional, all these aspects, definitely you can't remain secluded from these. So, you in fact, that is why I always say that read as much as possible to understand how actually things work, and what they want to know is a practical solution to a problem, but not at the cost of values or ethics. So, this is how you will solve it.
So that was very, very comprehensive, and I think during this particular entire conversation, whatever you have discussed is very crystal clearly summarized by you, and I think the students might not be having any kind of issues specifically regarding the case studies related aspects. So sir, now my last question to you is any kind of final advice to the aspirants, because now the means is like about to come within like 2.5 months. So any kind of advice that you want to provide to the aspirants for the upcoming mains examination, or in general for the ethics related aspects?
So, Vishal, it's like this. Number one, civil services examination is a challenge, there is no doubt about it. It requires 1 year of preparation, but civil services will remain one of the topmost services in the country. So, one should try to take as many chances as possible, and for that I would say that if one is able to devote time, keeping aside all other occupations aside, and work dedicatedly towards this, I think a focus is absolutely necessary. One should have that I want to become a civil servant. If you have that single-mindedly focus on that I have to become a civil servant, you will definitely achieve that. It is not something which is not doable. Getting into civil service is not something which is not doable. So, therefore, one can achieve that aim. The only thing is it requires some amount of perspiration, some amount of focus. But now, having said that, I would also like to say that things have become so complex now. 10 lakh people appear at the civil services at the prelims. Prelims is regarded as one of the very dicey papers, particularly CSAT is becoming more and more difficult. So, therefore, the first barrier which you have to cross is prelims. You must really work hard for the prelims. After prelims, the mains and interview, I would say their importance is still there, but it is relatively easier, it is more systematic because it is a study of the things, whereas there it is MCQs. So, MCQ is sometimes it becomes dicey, but if you study this with this point of view that your answer should not only be the routine answer, but it should be have some element of creativity and innovation. How do you do that? This is how you do that. For example, if your optional is psychology or sociology, try to read from the web as to what are the recent things which are happening in that. Try to include those things in your answers. That is how your answer will be different from the others. So there, because it's a race, everyone is running a race, you have to be slightly different from others. So introduce that element in your answers. And the last thing which I would like to have a patience, and there will be a lot of stress, there will be a lot of issues connected with time management, but keep that stress low, keep some hobbies in hand, talk to people, improve your knowledge by meeting with people who know more than you. Try to devote once a week at least, go to some senior professor in a university or someone who has cracked the examination to understand how one should proceed, because ultimately it is an examination which can definitely be cracked, but having the right approach and having right advice from the people. Discouragement, many people will cause discouragement. Many people will say, oh, civil service, do you have to deal with politicians, and it's become very difficult, lot of pressure. Never accept that. There is no such thing like politicians are very good people. If you are having a bona fide intentions, they also understand and appreciate you. At the same time, understand that civil service provides a unique opportunity in many ways, leadership positions and diversity of job and part of public governance, public policy, creativity. So this kind of thing, if you are able to prepare for 1 year, and you are going to really enjoy working in the civil service. So do it now, and do take part in the tests series. Now VisionIAS, for example, it provides excellent infrastructure in terms of educators, in terms of written material, in terms of revision, in terms of things connected with test series. So when these things are available to you, you must try to take help from these sources also. And lastly but not the least, I would like to mention that develop the habit of reading newspaper. Newspaper contain everything, and you will be able to get every answer out of the newspapers itself. Read 1 or 2 good magazines, and for example, it can be magazine Yojana and Kurukshetra of Government of India, the India yearbook you can take, Eco and Political Weekly would be there, Seminar would be there. There can be many magazine, Frontline, Hindu newspaper, Express newspaper. So develop the habit of this and try to improve your knowledge, skills and attitude. If you do that, your ability will increase and you will definitely crack the examination. So this is the message which I wanted to give.
Thank you so much, sir, for this holistic guidance, and I can say that it was absolute pleasure on mine that I got a chance to interact with you, a kind of personality, and it's a very immense pride. It provides me a lot of pride when I am interacting with you on this particular subject, where you are already training a lot of civil servant in general, and you have provided one of the greatest minds in general these kind of trainings on the ethical aspects. So thank you very much, sir, again for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Vishal. It was a pleasure interacting with you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So with this, we came to an end to this particular conversational discussion. So as sir has pointed out that we at VisionIAS are also providing you a lot of facilitation in terms of content, in terms of educators, in terms of other infrastructures related to this particular aspects. And specifically, we are also providing you the ethics case studies related aspects. So just go through it. Just try to have an idea regarding what all things are getting provided under the same, and do subscribe it. So with this, I am concluding this particular session. Thank you very much. Stay tuned with VisionIAS.